Hello and welcome to the Hard Questions. I'm Solomon Serwanja. On this episode, I host Dr. Jimmy Spire. Dr. Spire is a lecturer at the School of Philosophy at Makerere University and Uganda Matters University, Nkozi. He's also a columnist and most importantly, a person who has been a big figure on social media. He has led different campaigns, including the Kampala Pothole exhibition and the Uganda Health exhibition, and many more to come. So let's get right into it. Dr. Spire, thank you so much for accepting to speak to us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. Let's start off with, we have been following quite closely your work, especially the cartoons. I love satire. I love the way you connect satire to journalism. You tell a story in just a small picture. What is the place of satire in activism or in pushing for better service delivery or even accountability?
I think satire is one of the perhaps underrated means that are used in pushing for change, in pushing for better services, or in activism generally. One, because it appeals to a sensibility that many people relate with. I know many of us would love to see something funny, or you'd want to associate with something that you can laugh about. In fact, someone said that if you can get someone to laugh with you, then they can very easily join you. So I use satire because I know, yes, generally many people easily relate to humor, but second, in Uganda specifically, or Africa, if I might say Black Africa, humor seems to mean a lot to us. In all circumstances, whether difficult circumstances, in sorrow, you'll find people laughing. At a funeral, at whatever kind of occasion, there will be humor. Meaning that humor serves several purposes. One, it is therapeutic. It helps people go through difficult circumstances. If, for instance, I'm mourning, I'm grieving, and one doesn't want me to be thinking all the time through what I'm grieving, one of the things to relieve that stress is to bring in a joke. But also in Uganda, if you look at all that we go through, if you look at the things that happen, the scandals that are supplied almost on a weekly basis, the only way you can go through Uganda without running mad is by finding a way of laughing about what happens. I often say this, that if we didn't find a way of laughing about things that happen in Uganda, maybe they would have killed us already.
Yeah.
So that, but on the other hand, the fact that it has that power of pushing back, and that there is a way it disarms the oppressor. So it's very difficult to deal with humor. These are people who are laughing, and second, there is some bit of irrationality to humor. Of course, it's rational, but the irrationality is in the angle that this person is simply having fun. So how do you arrest fun? How do you arrest humor? If you arrest, for instance, like what happened to the Bizonto, or what happened to who else? I think it was Bizonto and some other guy who tweeted something about the speaker, the Miss Caroline thing. If you arrest such a person, you even attract more ridicule to yourself, because people will look at you as unserious. They've arrested the comedian, they've arrested the cartoonist. So the cartoonist has a strong weapon, or the satirist, but which weapon is difficult to deal with on the other side? You can't deal with it without seeming unserious or without seeming to be extreme.
Exactly, because then you're trying to, and your message is clear. You do it in a way that we can easily interpret that message and get what you're trying to communicate, right? You put your messaging in there, and even when you're trying to really poke someone or hold them accountable, there's a way you do it in a manner that we get the messaging and the other party also. It becomes difficult. You literally combine so many things together. That's an art.
Yeah. And sure, the other thing that reminds me about is, if I draw you, Solomon, you have done something crazy. But one of the intentions, just one of the many, at times I want to annoy you. I might even want to insult you as a way of fighting back. I don't have the power as you have to fight at the same at a leveled ground. So I also get what is within my means to hurt you. So when you show that you're hurt, that is triumph on my side. But on the other hand, as you might want to get back to me, there is a lot of license that humor allows us, especially as a cartoonist. When I draw Solomon, while the image will be striking, everyone will be able to know that this is Solomon, even with all the exaggerations. If I put the beard and whatever,
You should draw
they
one.
know that this is Solomon.
Yeah.
But Solomon cannot point at me and say that you drew me. The burden of proof will be on you.
To prove.
Yeah, maybe it's just coincidental that it looks like you, but I didn't intend to draw you. So except if you're to deal with me arbitrarily, there is no way you can arrest me for drawing something that looks like you.
Because it's not you anyway.
Yes, it's not you. If I had used your photo, that's different. But a cartoon, I can always get away that you cannot use legal means to handle me.
And therefore, it has been an opportunity for you to speak up against social evils, injustice, and also put out your zeal for accountability.
Yeah, especially to power, to those that are not reachable. You realize that in many societies, humor becomes more powerful in view of the balance of powers between the state and the citizens. Where space for expression keeps reducing, humor keeps going up. You'll find that in many societies that are so repressive, in many societies where there are many mechanisms that are used to gag people, you can't go to the streets, you cannot, you speak with fear, people resort to humor. They resort to other subtle means where the message will be clear, but they can always say, I didn't intend to do that. So in Uganda, you can say the rise of comedy, the rise of these things you see on TikTok, the rise of memes. It might not be the same as in societies where they can express themselves by other means. So when you push people from the streets, they look for other spaces. They go to social media, but what do? They know that you can still find them there. They find other vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And satire, so using cartoons as an opportunity to expand the already shrinking space and to express yourself in that way.
Yeah, but also to speak to as many people as possible. You know, at the beginning you introduced me as an academic. Maybe one would ask, but as an academic, one of your major roles is to research and publish and teach. One of the discomforts I've had with academic work, of course, not to say that it's not important, is yes, we focus so much on research and publication. You publish so many things, but then at the end of the day, you ask yourself, with all these publications, the journal articles, the books, who is actually reading me? Who am I speaking to? I could still have an audience, but mostly because of the reading culture here is people from the West that read my work mainly, I would say. So the discomfort I had was I was seeing myself as alienated, or many of us in universities as alienated from our societies. You get all the privilege of education to the highest level, and after that you just start talking to yourselves in your echo chambers in jargon that people cannot understand. So I asked myself, if I use an alternative means, a more popular one, which means could reach as many people as possible. Now with cartoons you find that a standard cartoon will have about 20-30 words, if any words. Others will not have any words at all. Meaning that I can speak to anyone who can exercise their mind just to think a bit. Whether they are literate or illiterate, they'll come to the cartoon and, oh, this is so and so, this is what they are doing. So it expands the scope of the people that I'm able to speak to. Much more than if I focused on text alone, on conventional writing, or if I focused on writing my column. Yes, I know there are many others I reach there, but this expands the scope. So if you have a huge mass of people laughing behind you, before you know it, they have joined what you're preaching. And these days it amuses me that when someone attacks me on social media, I don't even have to respond in most cases.
People fight back
the
for
army
you.
behind which I didn't recruit is there ready to fight back.
And we'll get to that shortly. But let's talk about, do you sometimes get scared for the cartoons that you do? Do you censor yourself? Or you just go all out? Sometimes I look at your cartoons, I'm like, okay, Spire, you're dead. This is. Do you sometimes get scared about some of the cartoons that you do?
Well, it's really tricky, and if anyone told you that they don't have any fears at all, that person maybe is abnormal, they have a problem, or maybe they have a certain kind of backing. I also have fears, and I know anything can happen. If you've seen it happen to other people, to Kakwenza, to Stella Nyanzi, you can't think that you're very special. They can't do the same. So it's not out of lack of fear that I continue doing what I do, but out of measuring that if I try to weigh the fear and the importance of the message that I'm taking across, I say, well, it is risky, but I still think it is important to speak. And the other question I ask myself, even to people that often approach me telling, no, please try to hold back, please try to even withdraw completely. I ask them, do you think it's important to talk about these things? And they say, of course it's important. There are things that affect many of us. Then you ask them, if you think it's important, who do you think should talk about them? That one that doesn't have relatives, doesn't have children, doesn't have anyone that cares for them. The other people we celebrate, the Mandelas, the Luther Kings, the Malcolm X, they had to sacrifice, of course not being foolhardy, not going all out there, but they sacrifice, and it's the reason we celebrate them, because part of what is enjoyed in different parts of the world is because someone had to do that. Same as the stuff that you do. I see some of the investigative stories you do, and I'm like, is this one safe? But I would ask, why does Solomon continue doing that? So yes, the fear is there. I censor myself at times, but my censorship is mostly in terms of ethics, in terms of moral considerations. I would not, for instance, just poke at someone out of fun. Say, okay, now, how do I get to Serwanja? I draw a terrible cartoon just to annoy Solomon. So usually I try to make sure that if someone has not done something wrong, especially something that affects us as a public, I avoid that. There are so many issues that go on in Uganda that people laugh about that I avoid. Second, even in addressing those that I feel I should address, there are some moral lines in terms of social decency, in terms of, let's say, nudity. I might want to draw someone naked, but there are certain parts that I'll cover. So in terms of the language generally that I use, I try to keep it within what is socially acceptable, not socially acceptable in general terms, but within the range of decency, within the range of not ending up with consequences that could affect another group that I did not target. Like one time I drew a cartoon of the president raping the constitution. I think it was around the time of age limit removal. So I drew a cartoon of the president raping the constitution, and then later some ladies expressed their feelings or hesitations about the cartoon. That how do you think a victim of rape would feel about that cartoon? But for years your intention is something else,
but it affects.
Imagine someone went through this and they are seeing that cartoon. I had not even thought about that. It didn't come to mind as I was drawing the cartoon. So those things help me to remember that yes, even as a cartoonist, I have some social responsibilities. I have responsibilities not to harm innocent people.
Dr. Spire, I'm just going to ask something that many people have always wanted to ask you. What's with that bottle? There's always that bottle that keeps appearing in your cartoons. It's a bottle with some yellow content. Sometimes it's what is it? I
don't usually want to speak straight about that, but otherwise I would be giving away the cover. Someone will quote, you remember on this interview you said this is what it means, so you cannot say that you're not depicting that. But maybe in very general terms, I think we know that at a certain point someone came up with a big idea, a very good idea for the development of the country, an irrigation idea or innovation, that we can use water bottles to irrigate even if it's a huge plantation, which I find quite strange in 2018 or, but in this century, that we are still talking about that when other countries are discussing huge
irrigation schemes.
Yes, huge irrigation schemes or development initiatives. So as part of that feeling, the awkwardness, I said, now let this be a permanent feature on that person. It's like a ridicule that is permanent. I'll hold it on to you for all times. But also as a way of working with symbolisms that make my work easier. Instead of always drawing that person there wherever I feel he has influence or is behind what is happening, I'll just put the bottle and people will know, oh, it's him that is irrigating this, or it's him that is irrigating the corruption, it's him that is irrigating the parliament and its behavior. So that's
interesting. Great. It's really good to know that you're using satire and indeed cartoons to, have a space in pushing back against all these social evils and the things that are happening in our communities. Let's talk about your most recent campaign and the power of social media. You started the Kampala Pothole exhibition. Quite honestly, I think during that time I hit a pothole and I was mad. It's like, but do these guys really do us a favor to give us basic good roads, really? You in a garage, in and out. 2 days ago, I was going through Industrialia. I don't know if you know that place that has terrible big potholes.
Yeah, actually,
Industrialia, it's so huge that literally the car just gets in there and then gets out.
We were talking of organizing awards and someone said Industrialia would win even before the ceremony starts.
My dear, I was there and I was like, let me just take this picture and just add it on the... It's crazy, but talk to us about what inspired you to start that campaign and what has been the results of that campaign.
Well, there had been an initiative of the kind by other players, and one of whom was the Deputy Speaker, the current Deputy Speaker, Honorable Tayebwa. They tried to organize a pothole exhibition in the early 2000s, but it didn't, of course, come to happen. Police frustrated it. So I remembered that idea because I had some announcements around that time and I found it quite fascinating. Asking myself, how would this exhibition look like? By then the potholes were even fewer. So now more recently, when I was driving behind someone on Balintuma Road, and I think this person was new to the road. Because for us who use it every day, we know where each pothole is, except if another has developed overnight.
So you try to navigate around.
You have the entire GPS of the pothole network on the road. So this person just came driving straight and hit a huge pothole and the bumper flew off. And I saw how he stood out of the car in frustration. So I asked myself, but how can we go on like this? People have been talking and talking. I'm not the first to talk about potholes. I know there are some radio programs that are almost committed to that. I know Gaetano has been almost talking about it every day, Kaliso Liso, and many other players. And how can we continue like this? And that this is the capital city, the face of the country. If the face of the country can look like this and we are unbothered, I don't think we can still use any other language for these people to hear. If you write a petition or whatever the other formal channels, as some voices I had coming out were saying that, no, this is, you're putting the country to shame, why don't you use other formal channels? By the time you get to such what you would call mad or crazy ideas, you have tried the ordinary ones and you know that they cannot work. So I remembered that idea and I just sounded it on Twitter under the guise that it was a friend of mine that was organizing. I said, a friend of mine is organizing a pothole exhibition, but we would want to hold a preliminary one on Twitter. I asked people if this would work, and the response that I got It was quite inviting, but it could also tell that many people were frustrated. And it was across the divide, the political divide. Even those within government, they would come to you inbox saying, that's a good idea, please pursue it. So I started calling on people, okay, try collecting photos. By then there was the Kabaka's birthday run. It was going to happen that weekend. I called upon them to use the weekend to collect as many photos as possible. By midnight, Sunday midnight, people were already sending messages. Should we start already? We have been counting down. Our memories are full, the phone memory. My phone memory is full. I want to start already offloading, showing the anxiety that people had, the zeal. Was it successful? In many ways, yes. I can't say it was totally successful, because some of these problems cannot be solved overnight. But still, in terms of the response that it attracted, in terms of how it put KCCA on tension, or how they were all over the place trying to explain, in terms of how other players came in, the explanations we got to understand that, yes, while we were focusing on KCCA, in certain ways the problem was bigger than them. The ED, for instance, asking, what do you want us to do without money? And then later the president coming in to release that money. I think a lot was achieved. If you go around Kampala now, you'll see that a number of potholes are being filled. Not perhaps in the best way they should be filled. In some they are just putting maram, which could be washed away in a short time. But there is a deliberate attempt you can see at trying to correct the face. There is a deliberate attempt at trying to address the problem. So with that alone, I think it's a huge success.
A huge success indeed, and I think the Uganda Health exhibition also started. I saw so many people coming in your inbox, sharing all the content that it was, to an extent that you once tweeted and like, I need someone to help my mental health, because it's too much. It's overwhelming me. I can't take it anymore. And that really spoke about the responsibility that you carried to actually tickle the public, to be involved in holding their leaders accountable and putting out things that are hurting them.
Yeah, I underestimated the lifetime of the exhibitions. I did not have any clear idea of where this would go and where it would end, what it would grow into. Initially, the idea I had actually was just the Pothole exhibition, that's it. And I thought that within a week or two, I will be withdrawing, going into my other stuff. Being a full-time academic, you don't have time for those campaigns. I realized later that actually the load I had attracted onto my shoulders was much more than I could handle, but not in regret. I learned that people are really going through a lot, and that there are so many people who do not have an outlet of venting out. They don't have any place where they can get redress. Many will tell you, I tried this, we have spoken to this, we have spoken to so and so, we have talked to the AIIJ, we have talked to, but no response. Like some of these stories I've been getting on corruption. Someone telling you, we reported to the AIIJ and they took back the information, even reporting the whistleblower, reporting to the AIIJ offices in some districts. So there was so much that people were sharing that at a certain point I also felt I was getting traumatized by that information, especially with the health bit. When people are telling you stories of their loved ones that they lost, I took my wife to this hospital and because of this and this, I lost her, I lost my twins, I lost this. It was up to now, I think I've only touched about 5 or 7% that people have been sending me. So it showed me that we really need to talk about so many things. we really need to reflect a lot about the outlets that people should have to vent out the feelings that they have inside. Otherwise, when these feelings keep accumulating within, when they finally explode, I don't know what would happen. In fact, those who are concerned in the two sectors that we have covered, they should even be happy that they've gotten a chance to hear people speak, they've gotten a chance to get that feedback. Otherwise, people are dying inside. There are some that did not expect any help at all, but you would see that they are feeling relieved that they've spoken to someone about it, or that their story has come out there. So as an individual, there isn't much, of course, that I can do. I would at a certain point also have to withdraw. I can only bear so much. But you ask yourself, okay, after this, so what? What happens? And the same people will come again and castigate you, saying, you gave us so much hope, and then after that you disappeared. People seem to be getting a lot of hope out of desperation, maybe much more hope than they should be having in me as an individual or in the space to exhibit. That you could see within a short time they had started Spire for President, Spire for Lord Mayor, Spire Kampala Central. If I was an opportunist, a political opportunist, I would start already warming up saying, oh, okay, now this is a chance for me to come in. But I read it mostly as a voice of frustration, of desperation. These people don't really know much about you. Maybe they know something about me, but I imagine they don't know so much about me. But feeling that you have helped a little for their voice to come out, they already jump onto the idea, this should be our president. It has a big implication on our politics. It has a big implication on our governance. People are now ready to go with whoever for as long as they can get some little hope from them.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have come up to vie for certain offices, and often us within, I would also place myself there, the elite category. We are quick to say, that one cannot lead us. You cannot bring a ragamuffin to be our MP or our president without asking the crucial question, how did we get to that? Why do people feel that now this is what we want? It is something that has been constructed over time. It is out of a desperation that we have built, and I think it's only getting worse. The focus, as in your question was, so far has been on health, Kampala potholes. But now there's so many other stories that are coming out. The new ones that I'm getting inbox, I simply ask myself, are we really going anywhere? Between yesterday and today, I've been sharing messages about these commissions. What are they called? The ones at districts. They called public service commissions. Or these ones that are in charge of jobs, of recruitment. The messages I'm getting about the rot in those commissions, the kind of bribery, the money that has been extorted from people in the process of getting jobs. I don't know where we shall start from as a country, and I think whoever is coming to leadership next, I don't even know the words I can use, the expanse of the work that they'll have. What we are seeing on the surface, what I've always been seeing as a citizen or as an observer, has just been, I think, just a thin layer of what is on the top. If you get to know the stories of what is deep inside, the degree of rot, you're just left speechless.
Wow. First of all, what you're doing is providing a platform for people to speak out. And it comes with a lot of responsibility on, I led this campaign, people are speaking out, I'm really pushing for social change. And clearly we've seen some of it, I know that the Ministry of Health has been listening. There's been this whole fight of unblock me, block me, unblock me, I'll block you, unblock me. You need to listen to what people are saying. Eventually, the PS or Ministry of Health unblocks you. So basically, there is that bit about people in governance that they do not want to be told bad things. They just want to be told good things that they are doing. And it's important to listen to diverging views and options. That people in positions of leadership and power have to listen to different views, and they shouldn't look at it as an attack, because I think that's normally it.
Yeah, very important aspect that you bring out. One other thing I've learned in these exhibitions, comparatively, when we dealt with KCCA and then later with, Potholes, not KCCA, and then later with Ministry of Health or Health generally. With KCCA, or with the pothole issue, you saw at first there was a bit of defensiveness, but very quickly they switched to the side of trying to understand what is going on, trying to talk to you. You could get a sense that these people have a fear in them that they can even be sacked. They have a fear that there are consequences to their jobs. Now, when you get to health, I think there is a huge problem in the Ministry of Health. For the first part, they were so defensive and dismissive, and then later even some threats involved, subtle threats. I know sometimes they would even go behind other people to cautioning you. Well, it comes as someone who cares. This and this could happen. You know what happened to this? Okay, there are already voices within government that you're trying to cause an uprising. And I think it's not really about that. They are just finding a way of silencing you. But there is also a level of impunity, which I've seen within Ministry of Health, that some people seem to be having this attitude. What will they do? It goes to how maybe some positions are filled, some government positions. When let's say as someone working for an institution as Makerere, if I know that I can always be sacked for not doing my work, I'll be careful. But if I know that nothing can happen regardless of what I do, that will breed impunity. I'll care less. I'll only respond where I feel like responding. We've urged the Ministry of Health to respond to us on there's so many things that have been raised during the exhibition, so many, to address us on what they have taken, what they have tried to address in the short term, what they plan to address, some sort of an action plan, at least to give us a feeling that they care and they are trying to do something about it. They kept quiet, totally. They only chose a few things to respond, those that they wanted to respond to, and maybe on some few occasions coming out to say, this picture is not accurate. But on those that they deemed accurate, totally quiet. Even when we put an ultimatum saying that if by 5 p.m. you have not communicated, we are going to go personal, they totally refused. And I think that attitude is basically because for those that hold the power within that ministry, they know that nothing can happen to them. Even if so many people have died and are still dying in hospitals, there is so much desperation, you will talk, they will only respond to what they feel like responding to. And all that is mostly going wrong because of how we put people into positions. In an organization where, for instance, if I've recruited relatives, including my wife, what will I do when people start reporting that my wife is stealing drugs? Or that it's my wife that is not coming for work, not showing up for work? I'll try to silence it, but I'll also end up closing an eye or both eyes to the rest, because I know the moment I raise it, they're also going to talk about my wife.
Yeah.
So this is how I think the impunity in such institutions has been bred. It's not only in a Ministry of Health. You can do a comparative assessment of how these institutions respond to people's concerns, and also look at their staffing and how people got into their different positions, or how they relate to the higher authorities. It will tell you a lot.
Yeah. Dr. Spire, what you're trying to do is actually using social media and rallying people. You're trying to provide a space that, look, while you don't have a space to openly speak out, there's this new platform that you can share your views and thoughts, and therefore an opportunity to hold the powerful to account. The fact that President Museveni came up, the speaker raised the issue of potholes, you know, the Ministry of Health is on the spot, people are sharing their stories. Social media has now come up to be a place where people can openly speak up. And of course, government has tried so many ways to gag it and to stop it. What does the future look like?
I can't clearly tell how the future looks like because there are so many factors at play. Social media itself is quite dynamic. When you're still focusing on Twitter and its provisions, there is TikTok, which also is a different place altogether in many ways. You're still talking about TikTok, there is another one. So the future is difficult to predict because of how the world is changing so fast today, which is quite a good thing, that governance, especially bad governance, is becoming increasingly difficult. It's difficult for anyone to oppress people and get away with it peacefully. In the past, you could do it. You block all channels through which people could come back to you and you enjoy your peace in your office. But today, people will not allow you to enjoy your peace.
They will tag you.
Even if you block this leakage, they will open another one. As you're blocking that, they are opening another. That's why you see that there is increasingly more caution. The impunity is there, but there is also caution, especially in public. On the road, you're driving with impunity. These government cars, someone is taking a video unexpectedly. So I think there is so much hope in the future, even in its dynamism. A lot will change, but mostly in the direction of giving people more space. Many innovators on social media are mostly looking into that because they know that is the easiest way of getting the masses. For them, they are interested in business, but business comes with how many people can you attract. Those in power are the few. So the interest of social media innovators will not be so much in the few. It will be on where the majority is. So there will be more innovation that creates more space. You close Facebook. I think now most Ugandans on social media, on Twitter.
Yeah.
Initially we thought that this is a space for the elites, it's a space for a certain category. But now they've invaded Twitter. If you close Twitter, first of all, it's affecting your own performance as government. It's affecting your communication. It's difficult. I know they are not sure how to deal with us on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's what they say, snake in a pot scenario. You kill it, you don't eat. Rather, you try to kill it, you not eat because you break the pot. But if you don't kill it, still you not eat. So it must be difficult for government, because I know there is no way in which the generation today, the current generation, is going to be silenced. They will always have their way through whichever blockage that you put. In this campaign, I did not really go around recruiting people. I did not, apart from the invitations that I satirically sent to some key figures like Dr. Besigye, Bobby Wine, the president. The others I did not really have to invite. But how people jumped onto the wagon within a short time, it's amazing. This thing outgrew me to the extent that at some point I wanted to call it off. Okay, to end it officially. We had planned just for 1 week. So at the end of the week, I tweeted, so tomorrow we shall be officially closing the Pothole exhibition before we move on to another. And someone responded, who are you to stop it? Which shows you it had gained a life of its own and was now ready to move beyond me.
Does that scare you?
Not really. In fact, I was happy with it. One, I know many people are focusing on me, as you would focusing on a ringleader, who is the one who is driving it, is the brain behind it, is the one who is strategizing. But when they notice that it's no longer your thing, there are many other people who are driving it, it has taken so many directions, then they cannot focus you on as an individual. It happens in initiatives that are led by political parties. It is easy to identify the ringleader, and if you sort them, somehow you can sort the followers. I wanted to create something different, that as you start focusing on me, I hand over to another person. I've already handed over, by the way. The next exhibition is going to be led by Godwin Toko. So I've handed over to him. If anyone thought it was me and they focus on Toko, Toko will be handing over to another person. And at a certain point, even at this point, we don't even have to hand over to anyone.
People just take
Anyone can start. I've already seen hashtags. Uganda Police Exhibition, Uganda Education Exhibition. I'm not the one who started
next
there.
now?
We are going to police in 2 weeks' time.
Uganda Police Exhibition.
Yes.
Wow. I can't wait to hear what people will say about it.
But police shouldn't be looking for me. I'm not spearheading that.
Most likely they'll come
even
for
if they arrested Toko, in his absence, since we already announced the date, it's on 22nd May, I know people will immediately start.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
dealing with me or anyone will not sort it.
So activism has gone social.
It has gone, so it has been there. I don't want to claim that this is just starting.
Yeah.
I don't want to claim that, as some people have been saying, Spire has introduced something totally new to activism. Many people have been doing activism on Twitter, on social media. The difference could be that maybe they did not get as much traction as this. Maybe they were not focused on one issue at a particular time, or the dynamics at the time may not have allowed that it gets to this level, but it has been there. Second, I don't want to give the impression that this is the magic bullet that we have finally found the solution to how to do activism in Uganda. Again, I've heard some voices saying those on the streets have now been rendered obsolete by Spire's move. Those who go to destroy people's businesses, this should not be contrasted to street protests as though it's either or. That is either social media activism or street activism. Those who can go to the streets can still go. There are many things that street activism can do which social media activism cannot. And there are certain things that social media activism can achieve that streets cannot achieve. So let everyone play their own role in their abilities or within the provisions of the time, but without creating sometimes even conflict between those who are pushing to the same end. I don't want FDC or NUP or ANT to feel that Spire is another force that is trying now to pull people to a different direction away from us. They can also still continue what they are doing. And there is a lot they have achieved that if you asked me to spearhead, I couldn't. If you ask me to go to the street, you will not see me there.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not within my ability.
My last one, Spire, there's been people who have been thinking, okay, when you're exhibiting, can you also exhibit the good things that people are doing? I saw in the health sector they were trying to exhibit the theaters, the hospitals. Maybe for the police exhibition is coming. Maybe they can show, what good things that the police has done. Is this the intent, or it's an exhibition, right?
Yeah, it's open. In fact, if you read my call for both exhibitions, the Pothole and Uganda Health Exhibition, I indicated that you can exhibit things you're uncomfortable with, you can exhibit exemplary cases, you can go back and look for the tweet. Then you'll ask yourself, why did people choose to exhibit this mostly? Why is it that it's government players that were struggling to exhibit the positive? It tells that maybe there are positives and they are there, but the negatives are outweighing the positives, or the people are so much uncomfortable with the negatives that they feel they shouldn't spend much time talking about the few positives. There is a person who responded to that in an interesting way, asking, you have seen cars written report bad driving, why don't they write report good driving? Because good driving is expected. Bad driving, that would be something that needs intervention. Yes, even for the good, when you report it, there can be more incentive in order to promote it, in order to encourage it. But as it's said, the tongue often turns to the aching tooth. If you have all your teeth in good condition, but there is one that is paining, where will your tongue go?
To the aching tooth.
Will it continue
Beside.
surveilling the others that are okay? So the effort was primarily towards improving, towards the things that we felt were overwhelmingly unacceptable. When you look at the potholes in Kampala and the percentage of the roads that are okay as compared to those that are not okay, you cannot come out to say that also show the good roads.
We have good roads.
When you listen to the stories about health, all the things that have come up, you can't come out and say also show these good buildings, the ones that they have been showing. So if some choose to show them, they are welcome and no one has been stopped. But if many choose not to show that side, as I expect even with police, it should be understood. Let them take it as feedback.
Feedback. Yeah. Dr. Jimmy Spire, thank you
for
speaking with us.
You're welcome, and thanks for the space.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, that's Dr. Jimmy Spire. He's a professor of philosophy at Makerere University and Uganda Matters University in Kozi. He's also a cartoonist and has been leading all these exhibitions. The Uganda Police exhibition is up next, according to Dr. Jimmy Spire. Let's see how that will work. I'm Solomon Serwanja, and this episode has been a little bit different. It has been more of listening to a man who is now moving the needle. I'm Solomon Serwanja. This is The Hard Questions.